Excuse me, class. Class!
Join us this week as Caleb and I head up top to meet friends Halfway Hollywood and his boy, and we're doing something we've been wanting to do, ice fishing. After we're done ice fishing, Caleb and I head out towards the wilderness, and we're going way out towards the wilderness as we're meeting up with a good friend of mine, Mickey Kindred, and he's going to teach us a little bit about his sawmill and how he works with it. Then we're going to be heading home to work chicken food. Class is now in session.
Well, Caleb and I are getting to go do something I have wanted to do for a long time. We're going fishing. We're going to meet Halfway Hollywood, and if you know me, you know I grew up fishing, but I've never gone ice fishing, and we're pretty excited about it, and at the same time a little nervous. The temperatures have gone up just a hair where we're going. The last couple of weeks it's been in the teens. Ice has been, we were told, 6 to 8 inches deep, and there was some snow on top that kind of slushed up. So we're gonna have to check it out, you know. We did have 2 men, they were older, that died on this lake about 3 years ago. And they went ice fishing. It was a little later in the year than this, and it had been a little bit warmer, and it was certainly thinner ice. At that time, I think it was only 1.5 to 2 inches. And I certainly don't want to put me or my boy at risk going ice fishing, you know what I'm saying? But we are looking forward to having a good time. And I have, like I said, I have been wanting to do this for a long time, hoping this becomes a tradition of ours. In the wintertime for us, since we've moved here 9 years ago, winter has just been a drag most of the time. The kids enjoy it. They like going out and playing in the snow some, and sledding, and occasionally we get to go skiing or something along those lines. But for the most part, it's indoors for us. It's cold, it's nasty, and quite frankly, we're tired of that. If we're gonna live here, we're gonna live here. So we've been training ourselves and training our line of thought to enjoying and finding a lot of things to do in the winter. This winter has been one of our most productive winters yet. We have done a lot of work, and now we're trying to throw in a little bit of playtime as well and really learn to enjoy our winter months here, because there's just things you get to do that are just a blast. So we're going to meet Halfway Hollywood, Mr. Andrew Miller, and we're going to have a good time today. We got some high-tech fishing going on. There's a Garmin. That's just a Garmin fish finder. Got it attached to a board. Got the transducer attached to a board going right there in the house. You can see the bottom. It's about 19.9
These are the red fish.
Yeah. So you
There's a lot of fish down
checking on the feet.
There ain't no fish on it, Dad. That's a fishing rod. And if it's a fishing rod and there ain't no fish on the end of it, it's broken. Right now it's in the water. Well, so far, Andrew and I have been skunked. Lots of little bites, little nibbles. Caleb caught a little bluegill. Wasn't big enough to keep. But we're having a wonderful time. We really are. This is a lot of fun. It's cold, but a lot of fun. I think in a couple of weeks, we may be going and doing an overnight ice fishing. All right. Got some new holes.
There's one around your bait.
No, see that? No, he's gone. Move all the stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy.
Put the holes in the back. Here's our little shanty with the 3 fishing holes in the back. It's a pretty sweet little deal.
4. That was this 4.
Pretty cool little setup. Got 3 little fishing holes going.
Fish down there, marking them at 11 to 15 feet. See if this one.
Well, Andrew, we got skunked.
We did, got skunked.
What's going on with that?
Dang fish are hungry. Somebody came and fed them dog food or something.
Got a couple of little bites. Caleb got one. That was it. So. But we're on our way over to see a guy I know named Mickey. And Mickey owns a small bandsaw mill. Does a lot of custom cutting, and we're gonna go talk to him about techniques and just how his little sawmill works. and possibly ways that he and I could work together that benefit us both, either in getting me some lumber or in helping me make some extra money.
If you have not subscribed already, please take a moment to do so. It helps this channel out more than you can know. And if you look down in the description below, you'll see different links to products that we've been using here on the homestead. If you click on those links and make a purchase through Amazon, a little bit goes towards our homestead. Helps us out more than you can ever imagine. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey guys, this is Mickey with Kindred Family Farm. He's the friend I was telling you about with the Bandsaw mill, and we're out here today talking to him about some of the different custom cutting, the way we can possibly work together in the future when he needs wood. But he's going to walk us through a few things today on his bandsaw mill, the different types of lumber that you're cutting and half cut.
Okay, well, I have a little wood miser. We'll go down and take a look at it in a second. And I'd like to share some different strategies that homesteaders can use to build their own home, to make extra income, different marketing strategies that you can use to help your family out. And the beauty of it is you can work together as a family to do this kind of thing. So that's the main reason why I do it, is because we work together as a family, and it's really nice. But I also want to show you some strategies that you can use with lumber that some people just burn it or throw it away or use it as firewood, where since you have your own sawmill, you can take those and make them specialty pieces, specialty lumbers, and triple and quadruple your profit off of them. So
okay, that's what you need right there.
Yeah, and we can start right now since we're standing here. We have a cedar log. This is the base end of it. It's actually, when it rolled down the hill, it broke in 3 pieces. So here's 2 of the pieces. Now typically what most people do is they'll take a wedge and they just make cedar posts out of it, because it's all, it's not much to it. And you can do that and you can still make good money off that.
That's a hand split rail that you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And because they do that because it's all rotted out and it's burned out. This one was in a fire, so it got burned out. There's a couple things that you can do with something like this. We live in a day and age where repurposing things is the new rave. So I actually have a customer that owns a restaurant in Moscow that would like to take this and somehow incorporate the burn and make a coffee table and put it in her restaurant.
Oh, that's nice.
So there's not much to it. I can just put it on the sawmill, cut it at a certain width, and then they can have it like that, and you could charge quite a bit just for something real simple like that.
And this is something you can do, but your local box store is never going to have.
Correct.
I mean, not even close to something like that.
No. Well, they won't even, the sawmills won't accept logs like this.
Right.
So they just will trash them. Well, even if you didn't have a customer ready for it, you can take it and put it on the sawmill, and you can start making 1x6s, 2x12s, all these different dimensions that you can get off that is different. So you can just take here and you can measure. That is 19 inches across right there. And so you can go down and get a 1 or 2 inch 2x19, 2x20. And you can sell that as well. Another thing that people are liking is you can just keep one of the edges not cut and make it live edge. You can make a live edge shelf out of it. Actually, I'll show you what we did in the house there with some scrap cedar pieces that we use for logging. I'll show you what we made out of it real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay, let's go take a look at that.
Okay.
We just made this the other day, and all we did was take some of the slabs and cut them, run them through the planer, and this isn't stained or anything. It's just raw cedar with the live edges on it, and it was it had both live edges. We just cut one of the live edges off, and we made an end. Got some stuff on it here. You can kind of get an idea. It's a 7-foot shelf, and we just put thin boards on the back. They're like maybe a 1/4 inch thick, and we screwed them into the back, so that's the back of your shelf. And that's something you could just do for yourself, or I'm sure you could find a really nice market for that as well.
Oh, absolutely. That's gorgeous.
So, and it wasn't much time and effort in it. It was pretty simple, and I'm not a finished carpenter at all, so it's pretty rough, but it still looks really nice. So if somebody knew what they were doing, they could really, have fun with it. Little dug fir slabs, and we needed some place to store our wood, so we just put two slabs together. Screwed them into 2x4s. You got slabs on the top and slabs on the bottom. If I was to do it again, I would make these slabs as well and put a slab back, just for aesthetics. It would look really nice, but I never got around to it. But it does a great job of holding. I think I calculated it's almost 1/10 of a cord filled up to the top.
Wow.
And it doesn't take up much space, and it kind of adds to the aesthetics of the room.
It really does. It's beautiful.
And you can customize it to wherever you want. So this fits for our house.
And again, this is utilizing what others would just waste,
Oh, yeah.
just throw, burn.
Yeah.
I cringe when I look at some of the burn piles out,
Oh, yeah.
burning with the whole trees in them. It just it's hard to watch.
Here we have a Wood Miser LT27. It's a complete manual sawmill. There's no hydraulics. It's nothing automatic. Everything is done manually. You have to push the blade. It's probably frozen, which it is, but you push it through the log. So the log is stationary up on the deck there, and you push the blade through the log. This has a capacity of cutting up to a 24-inch in diameter log. You can go down to as thin a board as you want, or as thick a board as you want. So it's really, really versatile. The kerf on it is probably 1/8 of an inch, so you can maximize on your board feet tremendously. So when you look at the books and it says you can get about 100 board feet off this log, well, with this you're probably going to get 150, 160 board feet off it. So you can really maximize on it.
Now explain to everybody who doesn't know what you mean by the kerf is 1/8 of an inch. And compare that to the kerf of like a chainsaw.
Yeah. So the kerf is the width of this blade as it goes through the log. It's going to take off sawdust a little bit. It's a very thin blade, so it doesn't waste a lot of wood compared to a chainsaw. You probably get 1/4 to 1/2 inch, so it adds quite a bit. And you also get the, I forget the name of the sawmills that have the large blade. They're quite a bit thicker as well. They go a little bit faster. This doesn't go real fast, but I like it because you have a lot of control, and you can get very precise with it. And the actual product, you keep the blade sharp. When you're done, it looks pretty smooth. You saw some of the boards.
Yeah.
That 1x12, that was just a straight cut. It wasn't planed or nothing, so you get pretty good quality wood.
And the kerf that was in it is actually very attractive. It wasn't butchered.
Right.
Some of mine get butchered with that chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
And it's very attractive with that. For certain things. There are certain times you want it smooth as a board,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
You want it as smooth as you can get it.
Right.
So, do you have a lot of customers that ask and want kerf, and some that want
The rough
plain?
cut look and
Yeah.
plain. It's about half and half. A lot of customers with siding, they just want a rough cut.
Right.
They want the rustic look, and then somebody that wants baseboards or something inside, they want it planed and look smooth. So
Okay.
yeah.
I know at the mill when I was there, we ran a lot of cedar through there, and we had a plain side and a rough cut side on everything.
Right.
And the rough cut side was actually referred to as the money side.
Really?
That's what the buyers were looking for.
Wow.
But they could go to the opposite if they wanted. So.
Right. And the plain side allows for a flat contact with the surface too. So.
Right. Well, say on I don't know what your average log size is you've been running through here, but say on a 12, 16-inch log, how many of those could you run through and get I know. And I also know it depends on what dimensions you're making. But
Right.
if you're making 1 inch, 2 inch, somewhere in there, thick boards,
Yeah.
how many board feet could you do on a mill like this in a day?
Oh, in a day.
You
If
know,
you're
a good
doing-
hard day.
Yeah, if you're doing 1-bys, you could probably get 700 board feet or so. If you're doing 2-bys or thicker ones, then you could probably get, up to a couple thousand board feet. a
Right.
day.
Right.
So I charge more for 1-by cuts than I do for 2 and 3-by cuts because you're cutting more.
You're losing more material,
Right.
and it's a lot more labor involved.
Right.
Right.
And another thing you got to take into consideration if you're milling for customers is the blade. Those aren't cheap, and if somebody brings wood to you and they have the nail through it, and you run a nail through it, that's part of your contract to say, if you run a nail through it, they're going to have to pay for the blade.
Okay.
And typically a new blade for this is like $15.
Wow.
So it's not
Okay.
it's not a whole lot. So
And-
yeah, it adds up.
Now, do you run a magnet or anything?
I do. I do have a magnet
Okay.
for logs that I feel have been, compromised with some kind of nail or something like that.
Okay.
If you get a tree in the city, it's going to have nails in it.
Sure.
you know.
Or chain or barbed wire.
Something,
and
yeah.
all kinds of stuff in it. Right.
Yeah. And so I usually have the customers, they usually go through it pretty well because they know they're going to have to buy a blade if it comes through. So, but if you're in a part of the woods where you can tell nobody's been, you're probably safe.
Okay.
Now it's covered up in snow, but these are a lot of slabs that we'll go through. And this is how I made that shelf inside.
Right.
I picked through this pile, and I made that shelf from the stuff in there. So.
And there's a lot of board feet in that
Oh, yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
That is several units of lumber right there that you have, or you could put it up almost as siding, cut the edges off.
Yeah, a lot of people like the live edge look, or they like the whole rounded, slab look.
Or like a log siding almost.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So you can do that just with those as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Now, do you do almost exclusively cedar right now, or have you been doing a little bit of it a lot?
I did a little bit of pine, but mostly this year I did cedar because I had a customer that was building a cabin, and he wanted everything in cedar.
Okay.
So that's what we did.
Man.
But here's another example right here. So this is obviously it's a very nice looking cedar log. This is very thick. It's probably, close to 30 inches
Yeah.
right there. When it fell, now this is the top end of it. So this is one of the smaller ends of it.
Wow.
So when it fell, you can see it cracked. It went all the way through the whole tree. There's a big crack. It went all the way through it. And you take that to the sawmill, they're going to scale that big time. Where you can put it up on your mill and you can set it up where you're making cuts, and just, it may only affect one cut, but you get the rest of the whole log as premium lumber.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, you could take out an inch probably and get most of that cross section out of it.
Yep. Yeah.
Usually by the time they get that big, ironically, cedar, which is known for rot resistant, rots in the middle all the time.
Yep.
Which I've never understood that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's strange.
but that's a gorgeous log. I'd be interested to know the age of a tree like that. And that's the top section you
That's
said.
the top. Yeah, the bottom was about 4 feet in diameter. So but
It had rot in the bottom?
It had a lot, probably 15 feet up was all rot.
Okay.
So. But it had gotten burned as a root fire. So
Now, real quick to the viewers, let's define what a board foot is, and then let's talk about what kind of pricing you're seeing between pine, something like a red fir, and then cedar on board footage.
yeah, a board foot is a 1x12, so it's a 1 square foot, 1 inch thick.
So that's 144 cubic inches,
Correct.
roughly. 12 by 12 by 1 inch.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, so that's how you get board feet. The sawmills pay by board feet, but they also scale every log. So if it's not a perfect log, they scale it down.
Sure.
So you always get so much more by doing it yourself. Typically, at the sawmill where we're at locally, it's about $1,200 a board, $1,200 to $1,000, which is $1.20 a board foot
Okay. That's a lot for cedar.
for cedar.
And that's a great price.
That's high, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
For people, that means a 12 by 12 10 footer. That's what, 144 board feet?
Yeah.
For a 10 foot 12 by 12 is 144 board foot, and you said $1.20 a board foot.
Yeah.
That doesn't take long to be able to load up. And
Well, to make it more, a 2x4x8 is 5.3 board feet.
Mm-hmm.
So 5.3 times $1.20. That's what the mill's paying. So it's going to be more than that. Probably $1.50.
Sure.
So you're looking at maybe $8 to $10 for one 2x4.
Right.
2x4x8. So
Wow.
yeah, it adds up. So I usually don't sell a lot of 2x4x8 cedars. I usually sell, 1-bys
Mm-hmm.
or even decorative beams.
Okay.
And then you could use the price goes up to $2 to $5 a board foot depending on what it is. And so this isn't my property.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that, I will pay the landowner the log price.
Okay.
So instead of a logging company coming in and just really, a lot of logging companies don't do a good job of taking care of the forest when they're going through it, I can go through and pick out 1 or 2 trees at a time, give him the premium price, and still make a good profit off of it.
Right. Okay. So you're taking care of the property in a way that a logging company doesn't have time really to do. They can't afford to do that. And I imagine you get to select you're not necessarily just selecting premium. You're looking at something that might be dead standing, or has just fallen, and is normally going to just be wasted in fire or rot.
Right.
Okay.
And that's another. I'm glad you brought that up. When you're looking to saw a log, you start by looking at the tree in the forest. And we're out here, and there's certain trees that we look at, and it's real important. If that tree is all wonky and crooked, it's not worth milling. You're going to get a lot of bend, and by the time you get on the mill and get it all squared up, you don't have much left. And then what you do have, when it dries, it all twists on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really important to find nice straight trees. I mean, you can work with whatever you got, especially cedar. Cedar's very forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a Doug fir or a pine that was all twisted, even if you cut it straight, when it dries, it's going to have a hard time. You have to really, really pack it down. We'll talk about stickering when we get up to the house there.
Okay.
So that's really important. Find nice, good, straight trees when you're sawmilling. Also, you don't want the log sitting down for a couple years, because then the fibers get really tight and hard. So even a white fir, it's like almost cutting through a brick.
It becomes more like hardwood at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. So you want to cut the tree as soon as you cut it down, before it dries out too much.
Okay.
That's the best time to cut it. Although with cedar is kind of the exception. I've cut down cedar that's been down for years, and it still cuts nice.
Yeah.
It's just a nice wood.
Cedar is a very unique wood.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it has a higher tensile strength than pine and fir.
Right.
But because of the lack of resin, it's lighter.
Right.
But it'll also shatter if you drop it just right, When I was flipping them boards, grading them, they'd be beautiful, and you'd go, and now you have 2 1x6s, and they're supposed to be a 1x12. So it's very unique in how the creator made cedar, in particular, and it's a valuable. It's probably, other than redwood, I would say it's the most valuable tree we have in the West.
Right.
That's native.
Yeah, I agree. Point the camera over here at the sawmill. You've noticed that we have some homemade ramps that we built. And we usually use a tractor, but when it's snow out, the tractor gets stuck. So we just we take a PV, which is a post with a hook on it, and we just roll the logs right up on there. And you'd be amazed at how big a log you can put on there just with the PV.
Yes.
We put one on bigger than that just with one PV.
Wow.
And just 2 guys who just rolled it up on there, and it was...
That's something I've been needing to get as a PV, because there's a lot of areas anytime you're dealing with that, you need it. You have to have it. You can't push that by hand.
Yeah.
And, I do like my chainsaw mill, because in situations down by the river, I'm not using a PV to get it out of the river.
Right.
So I can cut it up there. So there are advantages to it.
Yeah, for sure.
But that, with a PV, is what you have to have. It really is.
Now, I got a homemade PV at home. I'll show you how you can make your own.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because
I found one
in
a town of logging town. The whole town is just a logging town. That's the whole history of it.
Yeah.
One PV in town. That's it.
Yeah.
And the guy told me they used to be able to walk into any store. Gas stations even carried PVs just 20 years ago. But with all the regulations on logging, they've just gotten rid of almost all of them.
Yeah. If you have your own property, this is the ideal way to build your own house, to make extra income, to even pay for the land even.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't have it logged, because you're going to get pennies on the dollar if somebody comes and logs it.
Yeah.
You do it yourself, and sell custom pieces, that's where you're going to make the money.
And you do a little advertising and marketing.
Yep.
You got a full-time job here
Yeah,
if that's
you
what
do.
you want.
Yep. Yep. And I do, this isn't my main job. We do chickens and pigs and stuff like that.
Sure.
But this kept me busy all summer long, with everything else. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Once you cut open that first log, you get hooked pretty quick.
Yeah, you do. You do. You get hooked
Yeah.
to milling.
Yeah, when you start looking at everything that's down, you're like, hey, that you can do that or that with it, So
That was the curse of getting certified in grading, because now I don't care what I'm looking at, furniture, anything. I'm like, oh, that's, I'm looking at knots, and I'm looking at pitch, and I'm looking at twist, and so there's a lot to it.
Yeah. And if you can have your own sawmill, I've seen the mistake that so many people make is they spend so much time cutting down the tree, and it takes a lot of effort. It's dangerous. They deck the logs, they saw, and they spend all this time, and then they just stack all the wood somewhere where it gets all ruined. You need to almost spend as much time stickering your wood as you do sawing your wood. Yeah, so this is the process of stickering. Let me take this off real quick. Now this is cedar. If it was Doug fir or pine, I'd probably have a lot more weight on top of it. Cedar has a tendency to not really do a lot of moving around. It's just a really all-around nice wood to work with.
You mean by twisting when you say move around?
Right, twisting and cupping and stuff like that. So stickering is just the process of everything's frozen. I put in a sticker, which is basically our little 1x1 by 4 feet long. You want it kind of thin, that way it allows the air to go over the surface area more. And you can see there's air flow between each stack. These are all 1x6s. So the air just kind of flows through all of them. It's important to keep them off the ground, so you see I have some stumps. Then I have looks like a 4x6. And then I have just some random pieces. They're equivalent to like a 4x4. So it's another 4 inches off. Then I put these little stickers so that the wood is getting air to it. So I'm a good, probably 16 inches off the ground. And if you're in moist area, you might even want to put a tarp down so that the bottom board doesn't get too rotted out down there.
Now,
Take your time, set up the stickering station. I like this method right here. It's off the ground, it takes a little longer, and you have to cut nice pieces of wood to make your stickers. And some people don't want to cut stickers, they don't want to cut beams because that's the value, but you have to do it. You have to cut out things so that you can make. Even stickers have to be of good quality.
Now, you were talking about a customer that did a lot of cedar siding and whatnot. Is he buying air-dried cedar from you or wet cedar?
He did both.
Now, do you charge more for air-dry versus wet?
No,
Okay.
no, it was the same. He had a garage that he kept in. Cedar dries very, very quickly.
Okay.
If it's in a dry environment, under 50% humidity, and you got air flowing, it'll dry within a week.
Okay.
What's my experience. You can buy a moisture meter, check it. Anything under 20%, usually pretty good to work with.
With the cedar?
With the cedar, yeah. And cedar doesn't hold a lot of moisture in it either.
No, it doesn't. There's no resin, not in the way that I think in 5 years of grading, I had resin come on my finger one time from a cedar board.
Wow.
And there were nights I did 9,000 boards a night. So
wow. Right, yeah. So in the summertime, you don't want your wood in the sun. You need to keep it in the shade. The sun's going to crack it and cup it and twist it very quickly. So definitely keep your wood in the shade somewhere. You can see this is a really shady area, and I keep it all in the shade, and I keep metal roofing over all of it. And depending on the type of wood, this is 1x3 for a customer that's going to do baseboards.
Oh, nice.
Actually, the 1x3s are for trim around the windows and doors. The 1x6s are going to be for baseboards.
Okay, so these are specifically for customer you have
so
right
I'm
now.
going to have to, you know, some investments is planer, jointer, you know, different things, because this is all rough cut. So the edges aren't straight, the tops aren't straight. So you have to do all of that yourself. So you're going to have to edge them and smooth them out and all of that if the customer wants that. So.
Okay.
And I first started out just selling all rough cut, and then I let the lumber pay for my planer and my jointer and all the other stuff, the routing table. So you kind of let the business pay for itself. So I was able to buy the planer and the router with that money. So, and then now you can expand your operation. Now I can do tongue and groove and shiplap and all that other stuff. So now I can market, you know, pretty much anything.
So now you know you have a market,
Right.
which is good.
Yeah.
And that market is paying for your expansion.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
And YouTube is awesome because it's, you know, I had somebody say, you know how to do this? And I was like, yeah. I wasn't sure, so I just YouTubed it, and it was pretty simple. So yeah. So this is I just call it a cedar slab. This is a cedar. It's about, you know, 20 inches to 16 inches across. It's about 3 inches thick. The reason I did 3 inches thick is because I can put it back up on the sawmill and cut at 1.5 inches or cut 1 inch out of it and still have, you know, or if somebody just wants a nice, classy looking 3-inch mantle, you could turn them into tables. There's lots of things you can do if you're handy with wood. That would just look amazing with this stuff. For something like this, you know, you could charge $5 or $6 a board foot. And people say, well, that's pretty easy. Yeah, the cuts are easy, but when you're dealing with big logs, it's dangerous. You know, so you got to take that into consideration. I get calls all the time. I got this big pine that's 3 foot in diameter. They think I'm excited. I'm like, nah, it's all right. You know, they're dangerous, especially when you do everything manually. You know, so I prefer the 18 to 20 inches. You get a lot of wood out of them, and they're a lot easier to roll and and move around and stuff like that. The big logs, they're just tough. So here's some more slabs that we cut up. These are about 24 inches, 8.5 feet long. And I probably sold, well, quite a few, maybe 15 to 20 slabs this over the past year at premium prices. So Craigslist is a great way to advertise. Just get really good pictures. Pictures are really important. You know, so get really nice pictures, clean pictures, and get what you need to get out of them. Don't be afraid to ask what it's worth to you. So I used to have a problem with trying to compete with Home Depot, and I used to try to compete with their prices, and I worked so hard to try to meet their board foot price, and it just wasn't worth it.
Not going to ever match that.
So
like on one of these, let's just say one of our lovely viewers wants to purchase one of these. What's the range on a slab like this?
yeah, for something like this, it's about 24 inches, 8.5 feet long. I would charge anywhere from $250 to $300 for this. That'd be the minimum.
Right.
You know, so you can add value to it by planing it, smoothing it out, make a table out of it, and get much more money. That depends on which part of the country you're in too. So board feet prices vary from East Coast to West Coast. So depending on where you're at, what you can get for it. We're in a pretty isolated area up here in rural Idaho.
And if they want to pay for shipping,
exactly,
to ship something like this to Texas would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
But you're willing to do that if they want it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure. If you have any more questions, you can go to my website. It's kindredfamilyfarm.net. And there you can give us an email if you have any questions about anything, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. So thanks for watching.
You can check out if you're interested in purchasing any material from Mickey, or if you're interested in learning more about all this, you can check him out. His website is right up here, and he's a great guy. And again, thank you so much, Mickey. Okay, so we're going home. We're going to mix our wheat with the cracked corn. I believe we got some black sunflower seeds and oats. I'd have to look at it, and along with layer pellets. So we're going to start mixing that up in batches and feeding that out to our chickens. and it should be great feed for them and carry us for quite a ways before we need to buy more feed.
Right now we're going to mix up this food. Our chicks are 12 weeks old, so we are going on their last bag of chick starter. And we got 400 pounds of chicken food right here. 4 bags of layer pellets, 1 bag of crushed corn, and 2 bags of full oats. And we got 1,000 pounds of white wheat. And we're going to mix that all together, and then we're going to give our chicks and our laying hens all that. And it will help them get laying better and sooner, and in 2 months they should be laying. And right now we're going to show you how to mix that all together. We have a 5-gallon bucket with halfway full with white wheat, and we got a half a scoop of sunflower seeds. We're going to do a half a scoop of cracked corn, a full scoop of oats, and a full scoop of layer pellets. Two scoops of layer pellets. And we're going to fill this bucket up 6 times. 2/3 of it will be white wheat.
Big black clumps, get them out. The black clumps are wheat that was in the bottom of the bag.
Give me a nice mix.
Nice and heavy. It's a nice big bucket. It's a 31-gallon steel can. I got mine at Ace Hardware store. For me, it's over an hour drive to like a Home Depot or Walmart. It's like an hour and a half drive. We got Ace Hardware right here in town, and it was less than $1 more at Ace Hardware for this same can than it was at Home Depot or Walmart. So for a while, we'll probably be going in every other week and buying another one of these cans and try to get. We'll probably get 6 or 8 cans so we can mix up different feed for chickens, maybe get some different ones for our other fowl like ducks and geese when we get there. But get as much of this pre-mixed and with a lid on it so the mice can't get into it.